The moment the lawyer opened the will, the atmosphere in the room shifted. It was as if the very air grew colder, pressing down on my chest. I was still grappling with the raw ache of losing my grandfather, a man who had been more of a parent to me than my own mother, when her voice sliced through the silence. With rehearsed poise, she rose from her seat, her hand resting possessively on Arthur's arm, and declared with chilling certainty, "From now on, Arthur will run the company." For a moment, I wondered if I'd misheard her. Arthur, my stepfather, the man she had married less than a year ago, the same man who, in just a few short months, had made it his mission to remind me daily that I wasn't strong enough, old enough, or smart enough to shoulder real responsibility. I blinked in disbelief, but the faces around the room told me everything. My aunts avoided my eyes, my uncles sat stiff and silent, even a few of the board members looked down at their hands, their indifference almost as cruel as her words. No one was surprised, no one protested. It was as if this moment had been scripted, rehearsed behind my back. But there was one fatal flaw in my mother's performance: the script wasn't hers to write. I knew, though no one else did yet, that I was the heir. Just a week ago, I had sat at my grandfather's hospital bedside. His hand, once strong and commanding, now felt fragile in mine. His voice was weak, each word a struggle, but the clarity in his eyes was something I'd never forget. "Denise," he whispered, "you're the only one I trust." Tears had blurred my vision. For years, he had been the one person who saw me, who believed in me, who never dismissed my dreams as foolish. "Don't let them take what I built," he warned, his frail fingers tightening ever so slightly around mine. "They'll try, but I've prepared everything." I didn't fully understand what he meant then, but now it all made sense. The lawyer cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. My mother's expression was smug, her chin tilted, her hand tightening around Arthur's as if she was ready to accept applause. But instead of confirming her grand declaration, the lawyer's eyes shifted, and he looked directly at me. "According to Mr. Wright's will," he began evenly, "his entire estate, including all shares in Wright Industries, has been left to his granddaughter, Denise Wright." The silence that followed was deafening. For a beat, no one moved. Then, as if on cue, every head turned toward me. My mother's face contorted, her calm mask cracking. "That must be a mistake," she snapped, her voice sharp and cold. "He meant to leave it to me." The lawyer's expression didn't falter. "I assure you, there is no mistake. Denise Wright is the sole heir, effective immediately. She owns the company." Arthur was the first to break the tension, his laugh harsh and mocking. "Sweetheart, you can't be serious," he said, directing the words at me as if I were a child pretending to play dress-up. "This isn't some school project. A business like this requires real experience." I didn't respond. I simply looked at him, really looked at him, and watched as his smirk wavered under the weight of my silence. My mother's expression shifted again, this time to something far more dangerous: rage. "If that's how it is," she spat, her words trembling with fury, "then get out of her house immediately." For a second, I was too stunned to speak, and then, I laughed, actually laughed. "Our house?" I echoed, shaking my head. "Mom, you might want to take a closer look at that will, because I think you'll find another surprise waiting for you." Her face paled, her lips pressing into a hard line. Arthur stiffened beside her, the confidence draining from his posture. The lawyer calmly flipped another page. "Mr. Wright also left the family estate, including this house, to Denise, along with all financial assets." I let out a slow, steady breath as the realization hit her. She had lost not only the company, but the very roof over her head. Arthur tried to recover, putting on his familiar condescending smile. "Denise, listen," he said, his tone dripping with faux warmth. "You're young, you don't understand the kind of pressure that comes with this. Your mother and I, we have experience. We can guide you, protect you from making mistakes." The act was transparent. It was never about family, it was about power, control. They had assumed the company would land in her lap, and by extension, his. My mother would inherit, Arthur would take over. Together, they'd rule everything my grandfather built. But that plan had just been set on fire. I folded my arms, tilting my head slightly. "So let me get this straight. The second you realize you aren't getting the company, Mom tries to throw me out of my own house, and now, you want me to hand it all over to you too? You really think I'm that naive?" Arthur's smirk flickered, his eyes narrowing. My mother slammed her hand on the polished table, her composure shattering. "You don't know what you're doing," she shouted. "This is a billion-dollar business, Denise. You can't run it just because you got lucky in a will." The lawyer cleared his throat again, his tone calm but firm. Mr. Wright anticipated this concern. He made arrangements for Denise's transition. A team of trusted advisors has already been assembled, and the board has been notified. The documents are airtight. There is nothing to contest. Arthur muttered under his breath, "We can fight this," but even his words sounded hollow. The lawyer shook his head. "You cannot." Mr. Wright left no room for dispute. I watched as the color drained from my mother's face. For the first time, I saw something I had never seen in her before: defeat. "You'll fail," she hissed at me finally, her voice shaking. "You think this is some kind of victory, but you'll ruin everything, and when you do, don't come crawling back." I leaned in just slightly, my voice steady. "We'll see." The air was heavy, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone in the room. My mother's fingers curled into fists, Arthur's jaw locked tight. They had lost everything they had schemed for. And then, the lawyer reached into his briefcase. "There's one last matter," he said. Mr. Wright left a personal letter to be read aloud. My mother shifted uncomfortably, as if bracing for a blow. The lawyer unfolded the letter and began to read in a steady voice. "Denise, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and by now, I imagine your mother is furious. She'll say this isn't fair, she'll claim it should have gone to her, but the truth is, she gave up that right a long time ago." The words in Grandpa's letter clung to me like fire. "I watched you grow season after season, asking questions and taking notes while others brushed you off, and I knew you were the only one I could trust to carry this forward." My heart thudded so hard it almost drowned out the lawyer's voice. My mind shot back to those summers spent at Grandpa's side, the smell of cut grass at the factory grounds, the hum of machinery, the way he'd quietly explain why even the smallest detail mattered. I remembered holding my notepad, scribbling furiously while my mother rolled her eyes and muttered that I was wasting my time. I thought back then that maybe Grandpa hadn't noticed, but he had. He saw me, every question, every note, every late night I stayed behind when everyone else went home. He saw all of it. And now, through his letter, he had made his choice clear. "This won't be easy," the letter continued. "Your mother will fight you, Arthur will try to manipulate you, but I didn't leave you unarmed. I left you with the people, the support, and the preparation you need. You're not alone." When the lawyer folded the letter and slipped it back into the envelope, the silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. My mother's hands trembled, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the armrest of her chair. Whether it was fury, humiliation, or fear, I couldn't tell. "This is insane," she spat, her voice cracking like glass under pressure. "He was old, he was sick, he didn't know what he was doing when he wrote that will." "Actually," the lawyer replied with unsettling calm, "Mr. Wright updated his will just 2 months ago. He was in full health at the time, and legally, there is nothing you can do to contest it." Arthur suddenly shoved his chair back so violently that the legs screeched against the polished floor. His jaw was tight, his hands balled into fists. "We're wasting our time," he muttered through clenched teeth. "Let's go." But my mother didn't move. She sat frozen, her eyes locked on me like she could burn a hole straight through me with her glare. "You think you can handle all this?" she asked coldly. Her voice was quieter now, but it carried a venom that stung even more than her shouting. "You think you're ready?" I held her stare, my spine stiffening. "Yes," I said simply. That night, I barely slept, not because I was afraid, though the weight of it all pressed heavy on me, but because reality kept circling in my head. I wasn't just Denise anymore. I was the heir to an empire, CEO of a billion-dollar company, before I'd even reached 27. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and overwhelming all at once. But Grandpa believed in me. That belief was the one anchor I clung to when the storm of doubt threatened to pull me under. The next morning, the city skyline gleamed as I pulled up to Wright Industries headquarters. The towering glass building seemed to glint in the sun, daring me to step inside and claim it. Grandpa's team of advisors, men and women who had stood beside him for decades, were already waiting for me, just as he promised. I wasn't alone. But as I stepped out of my car, the voice that cut through the morning air made my heart sink. "Denise." I turned, and there they were, my mother and Arthur, standing side by side at the entrance. Their faces were too calm, too rehearsed. "We need to talk," my mother said smoothly, her tone suddenly stripped of anger. replaced with a feigned softness. Just the three of us. No lawyers, no board members, just family. But I knew better. This wasn't about family. This was their last card, their final play. They couldn't win legally, so now they wanted to bargain, to charm, to worm their way back in. I stood tall, meeting their eyes. Then talk. Arthur shook his head, lowering his voice. Not here, somewhere private. Every instinct told me to walk away, but curiosity, or maybe defiance, kept me rooted. I wanted to hear what trick they had left. Fine, 10 minutes, I said. We found ourselves in a small, dimly lit conference room tucked away in one of the side wings. Arthur sank into a chair like he already owned the place, while my mother remained standing, arms crossed, eyes darting like a hawk. You're in over your head, Denise, she said softly, her tone dripping with false sympathy. Your grandfather put too much on you. It's not fair to expect you to run a billion-dollar company at your age. I smirked. Let me guess, you think Arthur should run it instead? Yes, she answered without hesitation. At least for now. He has experience. You could learn from him. I let out a quiet laugh. So I'm supposed to step aside and let him take everything Grandpa left me? That's your idea of support? Arthur leaned forward, folding his hands, his smile polished and fake. Not exactly. We're offering a partnership. I arched an eyebrow. You'd still be the face of the company, he said smoothly. CEO in title, but I'd handle operations, the real work. You wouldn't have to deal with stress, the board, the press, or tough decisions. You keep the spotlight, I'll keep the burden. In other words, I said flatly, you want me to be a figurehead while you run the show. It's the best setup, my mother pressed. The board will feel secure, and you won't risk destroying everything with a single mistake. You're still so young, Denise, don't be reckless. I leaned back, studying the two of them. And what exactly do I get out of this deal? Arthur's grin widened, like he'd been waiting for me to ask. A steady stream of revenue, millions deposited into your account every month. You'll never worry about money again. You'll travel, relax, enjoy your life, while I protect the company. The arrogance of it made my skin crawl. They thought they could bribe me with comfort, with luxury, as if I hadn't already lived my whole life under my mother's shadow of indulgence. I let the silence stretch, pretending to consider it. Then I asked quietly, and if I say no? My mother's calm mask faltered. Don't be reckless, she said again, but this time her tone was sharp. Without us, you'll be eaten alive. The board doesn't trust you. The shareholders will challenge your every move. If you refuse, we won't protect you from them. So you'll sabotage me, I said plainly. Arthur didn't even deny it. His smirk said everything. I stood slowly, pushing the chair back with deliberate calm. Thanks for the offer, I said, but I'll take my chances. My mother's composure cracked. She shot up from her chair. Denise, don't do this. I turned for the door, but she grabbed my wrist, her grip like ice. Her voice dropped to a venomous whisper. Do you really think you can win? You don't know how brutal this world is. Do you think your grandfather helped you by leaving you the company? No, he put a target on your back. Investors will bury you. The board will devour you. You need us. I stared at her, my voice steady. No, Mom, I needed you when I was a child. I needed you to believe in me, but you never did. You only ever wanted me to fail, so you could take what was never yours. Her face flickered, just for a second, as though my words had struck a wound she didn't want to show. Arthur stood too, his mask slipping. You're making a mistake you'll regret. Don't come running to us when everything falls apart. I smiled faintly. I won't. Then I walked out, leaving them behind in that suffocating little room. But even as the door shut behind me, I knew the truth. This wasn't over. They weren't done fighting. And neither was I.